2 a.m. net will begin in approximately 5 minutes. KC9UDX net control here. Good evening. This is KC9UDX. My name is Matt and I welcome you to the 2 a.m. net. The purpose of this net is to promote the use of amplitude modulation and also to establish this part of this band as a place for AM activity in this area. Everyone is invited to listen. Licensed amateurs who can do so legally are encouraged to check in. We listen in the AM mode and transmit in the AM mode where possible. If you cannot transmit in AM, we encourage you to listen in AM and transmit in FM. If you are transmitting in FM, please adjust your transmit frequency a couple kCs above or below from our receive frequency. This facilitates the use of slope detection, that is, demodulating your FM signal with our AM receivers. When checking in, please announce your call sign in standard phonetics. Again, this is KC9UDX. My name is Matt, and I will now begin accepting check-ins. Any stations wishing to check in, please come now.
Good evening, Matt, W9JCC.
Recognizing Frank, W9JCC, our most faithful check-in. Is there anybody else that wants to check in? Please come now. Hearing none, I'll say again, welcome Frank, and we'll see if anybody else joins us here later. It's another month, although it doesn't feel like it for me. I've been busier than busy. I feel like I've been non-stop working since the last one. So, other than our camping trip, I'm not sure what else to report, and frankly, I've lost track of time here, and I'm not sure if that was before last month's net. I don't think it was. And I guess all I can say about that is mostly that we got sopping wet. We had a flash flood the first night we were there, and everything was wet after that. And I don't think anything in this state is drying up at all. Beyond that, I'll see if, Frank, you have anything else new this month. W9JCC from KC9UDX.
Okay, thank you, Matt. KC9UDX, W9JCC. Well, we had some more things going on here. We had a real busy weekend. This past weekend we had two graduations and one birthday between Thursday and Sunday. So we were pretty busy going out to eat and going to people's houses to eat and party. And so that pretty much took care of the weekend. We didn't have anything like that to do on Friday, but we ended up cutting the grass on Friday. You wanted to say again where you took your trip. I think you mentioned it last time, and I think it was in the state here somewhere, maybe closer to the Mississippi River there, but I don't recall for sure. The other thing that I got here is I got a John Deere tractor. My daughter gave me an old one, which was in excellent condition. And so I still got to do a little bit of push mower lawn cutting in the hard to get to places where it's hilly and where there's some hard to get to spots. But other than that, it did a pretty good job on the flat and level there. So not a whole lot new to report. We haven't been on the air much. Except for the local nets. I've had been grounding the HF station most of the time because there's been at least threatened thunderstorms, so when I use the house I like to keep it grounded just in case. So everything is still grounded here. I came down and then powered up the TS2000 here, otherwise it would have been grounded as well. Back to you on that, W9JCC.
All right, thank you, Frank, and fine business on the tractor. And Yeah, we have nothing but rain lately, and nothing but rain in the forecast, I think. And you know, I hate to say it, but I haven't transmitted anything on any frequencies since last month's net. I don't think. Like I say, it's just work for me. I don't get a whole lot of time to do anything. Our camping trip was to Blue Mountain State Park, and that is it's not quite to the Mississippi River. It's about halfway there from Madison. It's in the driftless area. It's right in the middle of it. And of course, the driftless area is known for not having standing water anywhere, and that's exactly the opposite of what we found. Of course, being everything sopping wet this year, there was standing water everywhere. Our campsite was utterly saturated, and like I say, we had a flash flood the first night. We had several inches of water in the tent with the kids, and I hate to say it, but you know, they were uphill from us, so they deflected all the water away from our main tent, but they survived. I guess they got to go swimming in their sleep. And we did some exploring around the area, but we spent a whole day recovering from the flooding too. And to me it seems like months ago that we did that, because I've been pretty much working non-stop ever since. This is, aside from Sunday, I think this is my first 8-hour day in a couple of weeks here. We're at the bottom of the list. Oh, and before I do that, we've got bratwurst on the live stream, and he says something about tractors here. I'm having a hard time reading it. My tablet that I use to watch the live stream, or at least to monitor it, is not the greatest. He says he might be getting a 1979 Yamaha QT50 motorbike, last licensed in '82, and he's getting it for $150 in pretty good cosmetic condition. And with that, we're at the bottom of the list. If there's any more check-ins for the 2 a.m. net, come now, please. Hearing none, I will add that the live stream seems to be working flawlessly this month, which is a very good thing, because I had literally just several minutes to prepare for the net here. But it seems to be working without a hitch for once. I fired everything up, turned it on, and it's going. So that looks good. I hope the audio is as good as it was last month. We definitely had better audio last month than 2 months ago. But with that, we'll go back to the top of the list, our very short list here. Frank, W9JCC from KC9UDX.
Okay, very good doing that. And fine on the camping here at Blue Mountain State Park. Yeah, we didn't do a lot of camping when our kids were growing up, but we did some. The first time I took my wife and kids camping, we went to Peninsula State Park, and I took my 2-meter memorizer with me, which I had just purchased maybe within that year. And we camped out there in a tent. I rented a tent from a rental place there in Grandview Boulevard. And I decided to bring power into the tent because I had the rig in there and I wanted to see what was going on activity-wise up there. And so we brought the power line in through the top. I think it's zippered from the bottom. So I went up to the tent, we brought it in, and that night it just poured, and the water just kept coming in on the cable, and just dripped all over our sleeping bags. So my wife wasn't too happy about that, but we survived. It wasn't that big a deal. And just for all the bratwurst, if he's listening there, I don't have the live feed on. I can hear you just fine here from the on the radio like that. You're practically plugging the needle out, so take a look at the signal strength, but you're usually around 30 over 9. So is not a problem. And the other thing coming up here is Field Day. I'll be attending the Westside Radio Club Field Day here at Bill's Farm. And we have a pretty good setup there. We got a tri-bandy up about 70 feet that goes up on the bucket truck. And a few other stations set up there as well. So, and we've got the triplex on the beam, so we can run 10, 15, and 20 simultaneously with the one antenna, and that works out really nice. So that's about it for this one. We'll turn it back to you on that KC9UDX W9JCC.
All right, thank you, Frank. And I'll tell you what, having rain when you're camping makes you really appreciate all the times it doesn't rain. And of course, we have survived severe weather twice. I think about 10 years ago we had an incident where we literally had to hold our tent down because of the wind and hail, and everybody else at the site I think packed up and left. And we stuck it out. And of course this last time we had tornado warnings all around us. We didn't have any serious wind or anything like tornadoes where we were, but of course we had the flash flood, and we had some pretty close lightning strikes. I got a real appreciation for attenuation. I had a pillow over my head so I could try to sleep, and my eyes were closed, and I was still blinded by lightning through the tent and through the pillow and through my eyelids. Peninsula State Park, I have not been there yet. We've probably been to a dozen state parks in the past 10 years or so. When we go camping, we seem to always go to state parks, at least in recent years, and we try to go to a different park every time. So maybe we will find our way to Peninsula State Park at some point. And you mentioned the Yaesu memorizer. I have not had one of those, but I have seen them, and I have some similar things here. I don't recall how many memories that had. The ones that I have only have 4, which I guess at the time was pretty incredible. Although, ironically, 4 memories would get you by today, but back then you probably needed a heck of a lot more than 4. And seems to me there was something else I was going to mention here, but now I forgot what it was. And we're at the bottom of the list, of course. So let's see if we have any further check-ins for the 2 a.m. net. Come now, please. Hearing none, I noticed that the background noise seems to be less than normal. I'm not sure if that means propagation is less or we just have less noise in the area. I suppose Dave is busy with yard work, having taken down the antennas and getting ready to put them back up. But we may have some other stragglers out here that might check in later. And with that, we'll go back to the top. Frank, W9JCC from KC9UDX.
Okay, thank you, Matt. And yeah, you mentioned lightning strikes. That would be something that would really be camping if you're in the middle of a lightning storm. You don't want to get hit with that, that's for sure. Yeah, we took another camping trip. We went out to I don't remember the name of the park, but it was on the Mississippi River, overlooking some bluffs, as I recall. Not real high, but overlooking the river there, and it was a pretty nice camping that time. As far as the memorizer goes, I must have got one of the first ones because it has one memory. And I have a feeling that it's probably got a little button cell inside to hold the memory, but it doesn't hold it anymore. You can power it up and memorize a channel. but once you power it down, you lose it, and I'm pretty sure it just needs a new battery in there. But other than that, it still works pretty well. I use it as a simplex transceiver for 2 meters. I don't have a PLR card in it. I think after, I don't know if I could have bought one at the time, or if it was a future add-on, but there's no PL, so strictly a simplex device. And it runs either 1 watt or 10 watts. And I got quite a bit of use out of it when I first got it. I used to have a friend down in Kenosha, and I had I think it was a Ringo Ranger up about 70 feet on the top of the tower, and I could hit the Kenosha racing repeater down there pretty easily, and we'd talk quite often on that. And when we go down to Dayton, I'd always put it in the car, and it used to work out pretty good. So anyway, not too much more exciting happening, I guess. We got our garden going. Everything's up except for the cucumbers, and I'm trying to think of how long it takes for those things to germinate and get up out of the ground. But they've been there since Memorial Day, and I see nothing yet. But everything else is growing like gangbusters. Onions are growing good, and tomatoes, green peppers, zucchini, and what else we got? A lot of flowers, but Winnie's getting a little irate with the rabbits or whoever's trimming down her marigolds, because they look thinner every time I go out there. And she always wants to go to Stein's or someplace to get some more. Back to you, Matt. KC9UDX, W9JCC.
All right, thank you, Frank. And I'm not sure where our garden is at. I know my wife has been out there poking around, and I'm not sure what she has done, so I can't even comment on that. I did spend a bunch of time, whatever day it was, when I woke up too early and I couldn't go back to sleep. I ended up going out and cutting branches off trees. It got quite a bit of that cleaned up, and I cut down. We have some bushes that are behind our house, and basically it obscures the view of the whole yard and everything else around. I cut those down completely, and we'll let them grow back, and then probably trim them shorter than they were. But right now there's nothing there, and it's kind of awkward looking out the back window and seeing the whole yard. If I get any time in the coming days here, I've got to chop down some leaves or some branches on the tree that holds up my HF antenna. It's a box elder tree, which is very well rotted out, and my goal is to take some weight off of one side of the tree so that when it does fall, it doesn't fall towards the house. My quick assessment of it is that it seems to be better off than I thought it was last year. Last year I thought it maybe had 1 or 2 more years. Now I'm guessing it might have maybe 5 years or more in it, but I'm not going to take any chances. So like I say, I gotta cut a bunch of branches off, and honestly I have no idea when I'll have time to do that, but that'll be taking up all whatever free time I have. You mentioned field day. I suppose that's this weekend, and if so, I will not be able to do anything for field day. I am planning on not working, but that's because I have too much stuff to do at home here because I've been working so much, and it seems to never end. I've got a week off next month, and I'm going to spend the week changing out a drivetrain in a vehicle that's not such an easy thing to do. It'll probably take me all week to do it if it doesn't rain. So we'll see about that. Now I've got a KDK radio, which I think predates the memorizer by a very short amount of time. And it too has one memory, but the memorizer, if I recall, like you said, you can push a button and memorize a frequency that you're on. This KDK one does not do that. You have to program the memory by soldering and cutting wires on the PCB, and I have never done that. It's still set to the factory setting of I forget what frequency it is, but Otherwise, you have a VFO and that one memory. And that radio is out in the shop, so I couldn't tell you what the model number of it is. It may be the only one in existence of that model number anymore. I can't find anybody else that has ever even heard of this model. But I've got quite a bit of use out of that, and I still do use it when I can. I had it powered by one of these jump starter things that I keep plugged in so it's always charged. Well, that thing gave up the ghost during our camping trip, so I guess I don't have that radio powered up anymore like normal, but one of these days I'll have to replace that thing, and I'll probably do the same thing again. I contacted a guy by accident with that radio. He was, I can't think of the word, parachuting out of a airplane. There's a word for what I'm trying to say here, but he had a handheld with him, and he was trying to contact somebody on the ground, and I got a hold of him and with that radio, and then I quick got on a repeater and told everybody that he was in the air there and he had a big pileup. So that was kind of a memorable thing. I was out there working on a car or something when I made that contact, but that was probably 5 years ago already. Anyway, we're at the bottom of the list again. Do we have any more check-ins for the 2 a.m. net? Come now, please. Hearing none. I guess you can probably tell by the way I'm talking. I'm kind of frazzled here. It took me a bit to get this thing started up here, and like I said, there's no real time to do anything around here, but that's why I'm kind of talking like I'm rushed. I'm not exactly rushed anymore, but I haven't settled down from when I was rushed getting the net going here. But with that, we'll go back to you, Frank, W9JCC from KC9UDX.
Very good net, and I looked at the S meter, and you're hitting about 35/9, so your usual strong signal in here. And a skydiving contact, I've never heard of one of those before. It's got to be a rare one that you made there. That's kind of neat. And the KDK, I have never heard about radio. Just never heard of it. I'm not a real big fan of getting inside and cutting up things to program it. Although my first band decoder that I've got sitting behind me here, it's not in use anymore. It had a little header in there. It wasn't a big deal to program, but you had to select a bunch of diodes to select the proper antenna for the bands. And of course, once you've done it, as long as you're not changing antennas, it's no big deal. And it does work real well, and it's probably the most reliable way to go because there's not too many parts in the thing. Since then, I've built 2 more band decoders, the one I'm currently using, and another one, which I just today started drilling holes in the box to start mounting stuff. And it's been fully tested on my Yaesu here, and the main feature of that one is that it's field programmable without a computer, so you can hook it up to your band data output on your Yaesu, and punch the buttons on the Yaesu and program the bands you want into the antenna you want, and seems to work real well. So I don't really need to do that because I don't change antennas often, but that was just a project I decided to do. And hopefully here in the next month or so I'll get it all put together. It's been sitting on the desk behind me here for a few weeks, and today I decided to do some work on it to get started putting it all together. I put all the connectors on it a few weeks ago so that I could hook it up just like you would in a normal operation. So all the proper hardware is there, I just didn't have a box around it. And getting rid of bushes, they're not too bad to get rid of unless you want to get rid of the roots. And the last few years we've cut them down, but I've left the stumps there because they're just nasty to try to get those things out of the ground. So anyway, back to net control, WE9JCC.
Thank you, Frank. And I know what you mean. I spent a whole summer, the summer of 2005, pulling roots out of the ground. The bushes that were here when I bought the place, they were these cedar bushes, and they had particularly nasty roots. And like I say, I spent a whole summer removing those. And yeah, getting rid of the bushes, the problem I've got now is I've got, you know, enough stuff to burn to last me a couple of weekends here, and conditions are not good for burning, obviously. I may end up taking this stuff to the they've got a yard waste collection site for the town. I might end up having to take this stuff there, which is more of a hassle than burning it, but we will see. I remember the year that I tore out those cedar bushes, we burned cedar bushes for weeks, which it doesn't take long to burn those things. Once you get them lit, they're burned up in minutes. So that tells you how many of those things we had. They went all the way around the house, and the whole, you know, the house looks completely different since I tore those out. And as far as projects go, I'm still working on the project to replace my bench down here, which I was hoping to get done by the start of the year. And I'm getting sort of close to getting the top surface done. I hopefully can get that done within the next couple of weeks here. That project is becoming a problem because it's preventing me from doing other projects. There's a lot of things that I really can't do until that is done. And especially now that my shop is being taken up by that whole bench top. The other project which I sort of started here, which I haven't done anything with, I mentioned last month I ordered a barcode reader, actually 2 of them, and of course you're not watching the live stream, but I'll hold it up here in case you go back and watch it tomorrow or something. It's nothing spectacular, and I'm having a hard time getting in front of the camera here, but this lag on YouTube is makes it very difficult to position things in front of the camera. It's nothing unusual. So you've probably seen barcode readers like this before. It's just a handheld pistol grip thing. It's an old one that I bought it because it was surplus cheap and supposed to be RS-232 compatible. But I think, like I mentioned last month, RS-232 compatible doesn't necessarily mean you can just plug it into an RS-232 system. And I have not got to the point of figuring out how to achieve that yet. But I'm kind of fascinated by the engineering behind this thing. It's very modular. Every piece of it comes apart and can be replaced with some other component. And of course you can't see it, but I'm holding up in front of the camera here one of the modules, which has a RJ45 jack, which is the only connector on this thing. Hopefully at some point here I can look at this, you know, with magnification and figure out where I can connect to it and what I can do with it. I think when I was poking around with it a couple weeks ago when I got it, I think I had determined that it does have RS-232 signals, but they're 3.3 volt. Now I'm not positive about that, so I'd have to well, someday I've got to sit down and actually figure this thing out. But I thought that was a little strange, if that's what it is, but not something I can't deal with. I think I figured out how to apply power to it and how to get, like I say, 3.3 volts RS-232 signals. If that's what it is, applying power obviously is real easy, and converting those levels to normal RS-232 levels isn't really a problem at all. In fact, it will probably plug right into a Commodore 64 RS-232 port, which is 5 volt, or maybe a Raspberry Pi, which I think is 3.3 volt, without any level converters. And I am starting to ramble, so we are at the bottom of the list. Let's see if we have any further check-ins for the 2 a.m. net. Come now, please. Again, very, very quiet. I'd like to say everybody found something to do outside, but I haven't been out there in a couple hours. I don't expect it's terribly pleasant. I think it was kind of drizzling when I was out there last. So, I'll turn it back to you, Frank, W9JCC from KC9UDX.
Okay, very good, Dave. Well, I hope it's drizzling out there now. We looked at the garden here just before dinner, and it looked like it might rain. I looked at the weather forecast, and it didn't look like there was going to be a whole lot, if any. So we thought we'd just let it go and hope that it sprinkles a little bit, so it didn't water anything. But if we don't get any rain tonight, we'll have to take care of that tomorrow. And I don't know if I mentioned about field day. I think field day is 21st, 22nd, 23rd weekend. So, where are we now? It's the 11th. Yeah, so I think it's not this weekend, but the weekend after that, I think, Matt. And, I did a little bit of planning on my own. I usually don't do any planning, but I tried transplanting a grapevine here the other day, and I just think it died. I was trying to think of when we used to transplant them a lot when we moved from state to state. And my dad gave me some grapes when we moved out to New York State, and we planted them out there. And when we moved to Virginia, we did the same thing. We took some of the clips and sections off and planted them, and they grew just fine. And when we moved back to Wisconsin, did the same thing. And I had a big grapevine in the backyard. I had 3 of those 8-foot treated poles with 2x4s across the top, and then wires, along those. And we had a big grapevine, and had it for quite a few years until, and we used to make, jelly. Didn't make any wine, but made jelly almost every year with it. And one year I picked I had a whole bushel of grapes all taken off the line there, and I was ready to make jelly. And when he says, "Well, I don't think I'm going to make jelly this year," and after that we kind of went downhill, and we didn't do that anymore. Eventually I took the grapevine down, but a little bit of it remained in a bush back in the corner of our lot, and I'd always get 3 or 4 bunches of grapes out of it. But most of it's growing inside the bush, and it doesn't really produce too well. So I was going to try to grow some along our lot line, just off our property line, where there's some scrawny trees that it could probably grow up and grow up alongside the trees. But I wasn't sure if this was the right time of year to do that or not. I don't know why I dropped out there, if I left to go to Mike or what, but anyway, I went to receive there for just a little bit. And I don't have too much more. I'm running out of things to say. Back to you, Matt, W9JCC.
All right, thank you, Frank. I don't think we've ever tried to grow grapes here. I could be wrong. I certainly have vines of other things. I don't know what they are. Overtaking a lot of things around here. I'm cutting those down all the time. They're not grapes, though. I don't know what they are. Some kind of vine. And what else was I going to say here? I know I forgot to mention last time around, you said you'd never heard of KDK. And I don't remember what it stands for. Obviously, they don't make amateur radio stuff anymore, and I'm not even sure if they're still in business. But they were one of the early companies making transistorized VHF transceivers. I've got quite a bit of their stuff. I generally like the way it works. I can't show any here on the camera, not that you're watching anyway, but I was looking around here. I've got several of them that need to go on the bench for battery replacement, and they're on a shelf here somewhere, but I couldn't find them. Everything down here is displaced due to my bench project. And I've got two of them mounted here in the shack, but I can't really point the camera at them where they're sitting. I'm not sure if either one of them is powered up right now, and both of those probably need batteries too. As far as I recall, all of these take a AA nickel cadmium battery, which is usually positioned in a way so that the corrosion doesn't cause other problems. But one of these days I have to do that. I have to cut the batteries out. And of course replacing them with nickel metal hydride batteries is a pretty simple thing to do. But other than that, other than things I'm forgetting to talk about here, I'm kind of running out of things to say too. And I apologize for that, but it's, like I say, mostly because I haven't had a whole lot of time and I was really rushing to get the net going here. But we'll take one last time here to see if we have any more check-ins for the 2 a.m. net. Come now, please. Hearing none, I'll send it back to you, Frank, W9JCC from KC9UDX.
Okay, very good, Mark. Yeah, you mentioned the KDK company, and I'm wondering if they ever made RF amplifiers. It seems like that rings a bell from way back in the 60s and 70s, or if they were into just the small stuff there. But there were a couple of companies that made high-power amplifiers that didn't stick around very long, and that one kind of rings a bell. And talk about growing things. My dad had a fig tree down in Kenosha. Fig trees don't grow up here, but he had that thing coming out of the ground at about a 45-degree angle. And in the wintertime, he just loaded it with blankets. He had kind of blankets over it, and then I think dirt on top of that. And when summer came, he would uncover it, and he would get figs. So you can do it if you want to put in a lot of effort. Well, I don't have too much more, man. I think I'm going to say 73s and go up and see what's going on with Winnie. And but thanks for doing the net again. And it's always good to hook up with you here on the second Tuesday of the month. And basically have run out of gas, you might say. Back to you, Matt. Back to the control, W9JCC.
All right, thank you, Frank. And certainly with enough determination, you could pretty much grow anything anywhere. My grandfather was always good at that. He had probably a quarter or a half acre lot in Brookfield, and he grew everything you could possibly fit on that property. There wasn't a square inch wasted, and he had stuff growing in the basement and everything else. All kinds of stuff that's not necessarily native to around here. But that was a very long time ago. And KDK, I'm not sure if they made amplifiers or not. I don't recall that, but it's entirely possible, although this was a Japanese company that probably started sometime in the early 1970s or maybe late 1960s. I'm not sure. There's very little information on this company. There's a handful of their 2-meter radios, which are pretty common, and if you search for information on these things, that's about all you can come up with. Like I say, I've got a handful of their models, which, as far as anybody else is concerned, don't really exist. And you mentioned field day being next weekend, not this next one, but the following one, so I'll probably miss out on it anyway. I expect I'll be working 12-hour days Saturday and Sunday that weekend. And with that, I've run out of steam here too. But we made it 40 minutes, and that's not bad. And it sure is fun to do this once a month, and if nothing else, it gets me on the air and kind of a break from the constant grind of work, I guess. And with that, I will say this concludes the 2 a.m. net. And we will meet again on the 9th of July. And I don't have a current calendar for this year, so I'm not sure what that looks like, but obviously it is the second Tuesday of the month. Probably after the week that I have off of work. And until then, this is KC9UDX73, and good night.
Okay, 7-3 there, Matt, and thanks for running the net. KC9UDX, W9JCC is clear, 7-3.